Quentin Boyes, who's the Executive General Manager of Direct Channels at CBA. He's responsible for the retail bank's telephone banking, I hope nobody telephone banks here, which experiences over 80 million customers. Well, then you'll get questions. It's like saying you're a doctor at a party.
Oh, right.
You know what I mean? And everyone says, well, I've got a problem with my big toe. The multimedia channels and the collection function. So he has 80 million customer interactions per year. But prior to this, Quentin was responsible for the corporate services function, where he introduced and championed the activity-based working to the bank. And that is the key reason that Quentin's here. He's since been adapted by ASB and Bank West, of course, as part of the CBA group, and it's transformed procurement to achieve a corporate executive board ranking of 11th best global procurement function. And Quentin's here to speak about the activity-based working, the potholes and all, and if the destination was worth it and why.
Okay, so yeah, activity-based working was, well, first of all, how it came about from our perspective, because I'm just the business guy who happens to be on the front of the desire for change, right? So I'm not a specialist property guy, but I ended up running the property function and had a very good team under me. And after we'd done this building, and part of our strategy was to collapse from sort of 19 disparate properties to sort of 3 campuses in the Sydney region. And after we'd done this building, we had already secured the Darling Walk, Commonwealth Bank Place buildings, which is traditionally would house about 4,500 people. And they showed me the plans, and this was the moment of insight, and the plans were very consistent with what we deployed in this building, so 1 person per 10 square metres and a traditional desk layout, everyone owns their own space. And it just didn't meet our needs, so I didn't know that there was an answer out there. I knew I was just absolutely dissatisfied with the status quo. And there'd been a very interesting time, which had been the GFC. And the GFC had, crippled organisations, particularly in Europe and the UK. And the insight we had was, on the back of that absolute, limitation, there must be big drivers to change for property and the way people house and use their property assets. So myself and Jennifer Sayers, who runs property now, and the architects and the construction builder jumped on a plane and we went off to the UK, and we spent 10 days going through the UK and looking for this, this thing that must be emerging, and it was absolutely despairing, really, because we had a set of criteria about business enablement and culture and transparency, and none of that was available really in anything we witnessed, and so we left quite sort of despondent, and we jumped across to Amsterdam, because every good junket ends up in Amsterdam, right? And we visited Interpolis, who were essentially, essentially established ABW, and also Microsoft and ING, and we just went, yes, this is the model for us. We had some particular issues to face, which is our CBD population. From the time we'd sized that building at 4,500 had grown by about another 1,800 people. And we have this issue around flexibility and change and the ability to organise around projects and then disband and move into another project environment. In a building like this, under a traditional foot out, you almost have to hold a floor to allow you the ability to move and then backfill and change. And it was killing us from both a cost and from an agility perspective. But the cultural transparency, we're responsible as leaders for 2 things in particular, I think: building capabilities, market-beating capabilities, and building market-beating culture, externally focused culture. And in order to do that, you need to create connections with people, because things break down around functional fiefdoms, and we saw ABW as absolutely providing the cut-through around, the functional connection. So we, my story then went, we came back and we had a place in Martin Place, a building in Martin Place, and we just threw in, Jose will remember, it was about $2.5 million. Nobody knows about it, so I don't tell anyone. And into a throwaway pilot of ABW. Then we had to sort of co-design a traditional layout, because we were in construction and we were fast coming up against a drop-dead date to go one or the other, as well as an activity-based working layout. Then we had to go build a business case back, because we needed an extra sort of $45 million or so. And we needed also to sell, which was absolutely the most difficult thing, sell to the senior executives, the people who are most vested in the corner office and the most vested in the existing model. We had to sell them that in fact this was a better thing for our business than what they were used to. And so the concept is, go up and ask, your local CFO, can I borrow your Porsche? And the answer is generally no. And what we were trying to do is get everyone to share the company Porsche, everyone to have access to the assets. There is no change management for people who are below 30. They love it. They get it. They get the technology. They like the environment. They like the transparency and the connection. They deserve it. If you know my kids, they do anyway. So that wasn't an issue. It's the senior executives we had to do that sales program on, and it's quite interesting. I just checked. When we did that business case, we put a lot of money into change management, and this was a very big beachhead. Going into a site with 5,000 people, and caring and sharing, showing, cajoling, bringing people along. Now, when we do change management on ABW, it's zero. It's almost the same change management budget that we used when we're going into a non-ABW environment, because we have the beachhead. We now have it in Rain Square in Perth, and we also have it in ASB. So ABW is the default way we work. We've engineered the costs down now, so it's almost the same for an ABW fit out as it is for a traditional fit out. So then you just say, well, let's have a look at those economics, 4,500 versus 6,300 people. There's your business case, let alone all of the other benefits you create. So my story is really around facilitating and looking for a solution of which I had no idea what that was, being dissatisfied with the status quo, but knowing that we needed much more in order to be competitive. Flexibility is a key word, culture is also a key word. Quite frankly, I was after a cost payback, and we got that easy.